Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Adam. Welcome to the Widowhood.
Hi, Tina. Thanks for having me today.
I'm glad to have you. What do you think about Welcome to the Widowhood? What do you think when you hear that?
Oh my goodness, how much time do you have? There's a lot of different ways that I can think about that, but in a weird way, I actually think about possibility. There's a
Okay.
lot of negative connotation with things in life, and I think that we need to do our best to turn that, schematic around. There is a comedian that said something to the extent of divorce is a bad thing to most people, but it's not like someone goes, it was amazing. I finished their sentences. She finished my sentences. I met her parents. We got along great. So we got a divorce. It's a culmination of something. And that something can lead to something that isn't necessarily better, but it can be different. So when you say welcome to widowhood, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. It is a difficult, painful experience for a lot of people that I think there can be some very positive aspects that we can find if we look hard enough.
That's fair. I would like to add, as you mentioned this statement about somebody getting divorced, that becoming a widow is actually a life goal or a widower. We take marriage vows and we say, till death do us part. We don't take marriage vows and say, till we get divorced. So actually, this is when you say those are hashtag relationship goals, this is what it looks like. We don't often think about what it would be to be in my position or someone that has lost their wife, but this is really what life goals look like.
Oh my God, I love that. That is such a wonderful way to look at it.
Because really it is. In the idea of the inevitable, the reason we're having this conversation because the products that you support and you do are about life goals. The idea of wanting to have a plan, care for our loved ones, leave everyone in a good space. But before we get into this, how did we get here with this? And who is Adam?
All right. So I have a strange background. I'm an attorney. I have an MBA. The absolute last thing that I thought that I'd be doing if you spoke to me 5, 10 years ago was working in the industry that a lot of people refer to as death tech, which is kind of neat. I have sold clean energy plants to prime ministers around the world. I was the entrepreneur and futurist for Discovery Channel's parent company. I was somebody jumping off at the top of Mount Everest. How do you make the show better to go fix file sharing or invest in startups? I was at a hedge fund outside of law school, and when I got my MBA, that grew to $1.2 billion while I was there on the ops team. So this is all new for me, but it became very, very personal after my father passed away from leukemia. If you like, we can get into the story of how that happened.
I would because that is the heartbeat of what you're doing.
Yeah. All right. So 6.5, 7 years prior to starting Buried in Work, my father was diagnosed with leukemia for the first time, AML.
And your dad's name, Adam?
He's Andy. So
Andy?
Andy or
Okay.
Andrew.
Okay.
It's funny. A lot of people actually call me Andy growing up, and I don't know. Maybe it's just the way. Maybe I'm an Andy by default. He named me wrong. But he got diagnosed with AML. I actually donated bone marrow to him, so we got him some extra time, which is pretty neat. There's only a 30% chance that I was a match, and I was. The procedure went well, and he relapsed once, and then he was at my house one day, and we're doing some woodworking in the basement, and he walks up the stairs and he goes, Adam, I'm tired. And my dad is not one to complain. He's one to make a joke. And when we say we're tired, we go and take a nap. We get some tea, we read a book, something like that. When he says I'm tired, it means something's really not right. I got to go back to the doctor's office. So we're in Maryland. He goes to Hopkins, where his doctor is. These doctors are phenomenal at Johns Hopkins, so shout out to them. They ran some tests. They told him to check in on a Thursday, and 12 days later, he passed away. So it was really quick. There's some really positives of the narrative. I mean, If this happened 20 years ago, we wouldn't have gotten those extra 6.5, 7 years.
Right.
My sister's kids, which I love this, like literally goosebumps right now. They were younger when he was diagnosed first. And that extra time that he got, he was able to build relationships and they're going to have real memories of now, which is phenomenal. The way things transpired up until the day or two before he actually passed, we were still having conversations with him. So it wasn't that somebody didn't wake up, getting hit by the proverbial bus. We had a little bit of closure. And if we had to pick a way that it happened, given the circumstances, it was very beautiful. But it set off this chain of events for me that has led to probably the most rewarding professional experience of my life, or definitely among that. And that's the founding of Buried in Work. Now, I didn't mean to start this company. I was helping my mom transition her estate, or transition my dad's estate to her. I was executor on the will. I have two sisters, and I wanted to make sure that everything that I was doing, I had very copious notes of everything. And literally, spreadsheet of, at this date, at this time, I did this for this reason. This is the outcome. This is what I have to do next. And then another spreadsheet that does X, Y, Z. And then here's where I found the information telling me what I needed to do. And when I met with my mom's financial planner, because we're transitioning accounts, making sure the payable and death beneficiary is actually transferred, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the conversation, she said, Adam, this is the most thorough transition I've ever seen in my life, and you have to give it away to other people. Now, I grew up with cartoons. And on one shoulder, I had that devil guy that we all probably remember. And he's going, she's lying to you. It's not that good. She just doesn't want you to move your mom's money to another broker. You know, because I had power of attorney and I was there. And on the other hand, the angel on my shoulder is going, Adam, it's kind of organized. It's a little bit more organized than it needs to be. Maybe she has something there. So I went and I spoke to a bunch of friends and showed them what I did. I showed some of my mom's friends what I was doing. And every single person said, Adam, this is good stuff. You know, take out your mom's stuff, type up some notes. You got time on your hands right now. Make a webpage. You know how to do that, and just help some people out. And that's what I did. So I built a website, buriedinwork.com. We started looking for names, and my dad loves puns, so we tried to come up with a punny name, you know, in his honor a bit. We started looking at Good Grief, but Good Grief was taken, and Buried in Work kind of hit because it takes on average 570 hours to transition an estate in America, which we can get into that too. Far too long, and you get buried in the work, and then buried's a pun with end of life, yada, yada, yada. So I make this website. And I post on Nextdoor, if you're familiar with it. I posted on LinkedIn and I posted on Facebook. And in a week, we had over 10,000 visits to the webpage. And since then, things have grown significantly. People came to us and I was flooded with messages saying, thank you for doing this. This is helpful. I wish I had this when my mom passed away. You know, XYZ, can you, instead of telling us tips of how to do stuff, help us actually do it? So we came out with products, and the products and the checklists and the guides and the directories that we have now are making an impact. There was one woman who, her husband was in the hospital. He wasn't paying bills because she was in the hospital. And she went through one of our checklists that said, you have to make sure that you have an updated understanding of where all your policies are in terms of what's important to need to be paid, you know, XYZ. And it turns out that the life insurance policy on the husband hadn't been paid and was going to lapse in 2 days. She called, she got an extension, they sent a check in, they paid. He died a week or two later, and she got a $403,000 check that she would have missed out on.
That is a game changer.
Yeah, that's life-changing, literally
Yeah.
life-changing. And it would have gone away, but for following the directions of this checklist. And we've got stories like that, and that's how things started. So this is what I'm doing full-time. It's not just me. There's a lot of people that are involved. I like to wake up every morning and look at the dashboard of where people are logging in from, and at any given time, we've got a bunch of people on the website.
Adam, thank you for sharing that. And I am sorry for your dad's Andrew's passing, but it sounds as if your dad had a wonderful life. When you think of your dad, what are some great memories of him?
Oh gosh, he is a funny guy. He would wake up really early to go to work so he can come back and see the family. He worked at the IRS. He was an executive there, director of federal, state, and local governments. He'd be like, go edit Michigan or audit Michigan. Our bird's name was ERISA. If you're familiar with that, it's the law for pension plans. Like, just funny sense of humor. He just cared about making other people's lives better. That's it, right? Whether it was your family, whether it was people he cared about. and he could always find joy in the moment. There's a game that we ended up creating for Buried in Work called One More Story, where it is from a time that I was in the hospital with him
And
in a
I have
card game.
that game.
Yep, you have the game. So this is the background for it, okay? So we're in the hospital, just a few of us, probably 5-6 days before he passes away, and we're realizing, things aren't in the best place right now, but once you're gone, you're gone. We want to get these stories out of you. So we started asking questions. What about when you were a kid? Tell us about grandpa. Tell us one more story about this. What's the legacy that you want to leave? And that turned into the card game. But there was a break in us asking questions when a nurse came in to take some vitals or give him some medicine or something. And he knew all the nurses at the time because they rotate through. You get to know him. He's been going to Hopkins for a while. And he looks at her and goes, "Nurse," and I'm just going to call her, I don't know, Julie. "Julie, why is a giraffe's neck so long?" And she looks at him like, "Andy, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "So it can reach its head." Stupid dad joke. He knows things aren't going well. He just wants to make somebody smile. And I can give you example after example after example, but that's what I think of my dad now. And I think of him often is just him trying to leave the world a little bit better than how he found it.
Wow. Thank you for that backstory. This game, at what point did you start developing and who helped you do that?
Oh, gosh. Okay. It was a natural progression of some of the things that we were doing. So the first website that we launched were a few articles, blog posts. Here's a list of places you should go. Here's the information that I collected and why it's important for you to find it. That turned into a product that you have called the Estate Preparation Package, which is now called the Clear Kit. And people kept coming back to us going, "Okay, what else can we do? What else can we do?" And what we realized is that when you talk about comprehensive estate planning, it's a lot more than just having a will, having a trust. There's a whole list of things that you need to do. And I am a firm believer, and this is probably passed down from both of my parents, that having those relationships and understanding the people that you're with is equally as important as whether or not you can transition that bank account and save yourself an hour or two or save some dollars. So the One More Story game was an extension of that, saying, how can I help other people have a positive memory like I had with my father? And One More Story grew out of that. So we worked with a game designer out of the Ukraine. Then we worked with a game designer in the US. And we work with clinical social workers to get the questions right. The printing is done in the United States right now via a great company. We went through a bunch of samples of the cards. So we focused on one that is poker-sized playing cards that has a linen feel. So people with dexterity issues can actually hold it really easily. It's not going to slip. It's color-coded on the categories, so you can learn about what they are as you play through. Big font, and it's designed so not only people my age, but my parents could use it. And people are actually taking it on dates now and buying it for hospice companies. And it just evolved. So that's where One More Story came from. And nothing left unsaid is the other game that we have, which grew out of One More Story, where it helps you ask those questions that the Clear Kits or the Estate Preparation Package.
Oh, what's the other game? I don't think I have that. I'm about to
I think
give you
you do.
some shade.
I think you got two. No?
Hmm?
I'm gonna send you another one then.
I have
So
this game, but
there's a
I'm gonna
blue
talk
one.
about no,
There's a
no,
blue
I
one.
don't
You have a
have
blue
that.
one?
No.
This may have come out after we sent it to you then, because they came out at
Okay.
2 different times. So Nothing Left Unsaid is the equivalent of the EPP, whereas it's not going to do your will or make your trust for you, but it's going to ask, where is your will? Do you have a will? Who needs to be notified? How do you care about palliative care? These are a few definitions that people might say. So we're just trying to round that side of things out. But everything that we're doing, to go back to your question, is born out of solving a problem that we think people are having based on the feedback that people are giving us.
Great. Do you mind if I go over a couple of questions of the game that I do have?
Oh my God, yeah, this will be fun.
So
Yeah.
I like this because, as you said about the relationship with your dad, everyone does not have a good relationship, and everyone doesn't really know how to communicate, especially if we're trying to initiate communication in an already difficult period of life. So, nothing left unsaid if that's the game. I can see how that can just allow people to have conversations that they would not know how to start, and that it's in a fun, engaging, as much as you can kind of way, impromptu, and started getting some of that information out. So this game here, a quick start, shuffle the cards, draw a card, and read the questions. I like And you mentioned all the different things that I noticed about the cards as far as the font size, the color. It's not complicated. And I can see how you can do this with friends over for dinner or just on a date when you're trying to get to know someone. They're not super depth questions, but it's enough to start a conversation. And in fact, I've played this a couple of times on a TikTok live with some friends and doing that. This first card that I have here, it says, "One more story. Tell me about a time you felt proud of yourself."
Right now. Like
Yeah.
to say, oh
Oh,
my goodness, like literally goosebumps. When you say that you're using these on TikToks with other people, like it's actually working,
yes.
which is amazing. I did not think I was going to be a game designer. I didn't think I'd have this website. I didn't think I'd have this company, but I am proud right now. And it's, yeah, wow. I absolutely love it. Like you said that it's easy enough for dinner. We actually just released something last week called Death During Dinner, which is instructions of how to play this with your friends at dinner. So like, it's amazing. I love this. This is when I'm proud.
Okay. I'll let you pull a card and ask me.
Okay, I'm gonna do one from the Nothing Left Unsaid one.
Well, you went hard. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I want to make sure that I get one of my favorite ones. All right, this is a good one. Would you like your life celebrated through a charity or foundation in your name? And effectively, that goes to how do you want your legacy to be remembered?
Well, that's going to be an easy one for me.
Yeah.
I have started a foundation, Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, which is a registered 501(c)(3) nonprofit. It was not put in my name, but I am the founder of it. It was started because of the passing of my late husband. We were together for 32 years, and the work that I do, even just this podcast, is intentional to serve people who are dealing with the grief of a loved one. And interesting enough, I'm drinking this tea because I've gotten bronchitis, and I have found that when I'm not feeling well, I think of the inevitable, that one day I will not be here. And I've thought about, how long will I have in life to live to continue this foundation? And what will it look like when I transition from this world?
Yeah.
So when we're here, the ability to make a impact in the world is important. And I would want whatever impact I've made to proceed and last past myself and continue to help people. We actually just finished a annual walkathon called Walk for Love, and we had a goal that we literally tripled the fundraiser, and we're using that money to develop a grief garden in a low income area and then to conduct a butterfly release ceremony. Because oftentimes when you don't have a lot of money, you may not be able to take off weeks or months to manage your grief. You may literally be taking off those 3 days and you're back in the grind. So for us to try to provide something that can help people with their mental capacity and encourage them and do things as part of what our foundation does. So I would want that to continue.
I love it. Let's make sure that that gets in the show notes for you.
Thank you.
The reason why I flipped through a few cards, I was on the assets and liability and insurance section. I didn't want to ask you a question like, do you owe anybody money?
I mean, the
No,
couple
you don't have to
credit
answer
cards.
that. You don't need to answer that.
And I'll say this about the bronchitis, because we had this conversation scheduled and then we had to cancel. And I was like, I am going to do this with you. But I'll give you a funny story about me and the bronchitis.
Yeah.
The first time that I found out I had bronchitis, our daughter was about 2.5, and I was a stay-at-home mom at that time. And one day I got up and I just could not keep up with her. Now I'm an army girl, so keeping up with a toddler wasn't really a thing, but I was exhausted. And it came to the point that I called a girlfriend and said, "I can't breathe," and literally dropped the phone. And she had the ambulance, show medical at our home. I went to the hospital, and that is when we found out I was pregnant with my son. And so my friends say, "You go into the hospital and then you come out pregnant. What were you guys doing in there?" So, but it was devastating. And I was like, "That is not what happened in the hospital." And every
It
year,
takes a little bit
almost.
more time than that to know anyways.
I mean, just so to lock it in, but I am committed to this conversation. But and every year since then, we lived in Pennsylvania, extremely cold weather was like every year, like clockwork, I would get bronchitis. And I was like, when I moved back to Virginia, I thought I was free of this. This is probably like maybe only the second time since I've moved back that I've gotten bronchitis.
I'm glad that you're here. Drink your tea, take your time. If you cough, that's okay. Your story is not that unusual in a strange way. I have a very close friend who went to the hospital because he cracked a rib and they ran some tests and they found out he had cancer while he was there.
Mm,
So because he fell, it actually ended up saving his life, which is
right.
unbelievable. So
I hear that a
again,
lot.
yeah, another
Yeah.
story of like out of something painful can come good results, and you just got to run with it.
It is, and it's also what we focus on. You mentioned something earlier, and I'm not sure if it was in the pre-show conversation, but this is an inevitable part of life.
Mhm.
And the reality of having those things in place will make it easier for the person who is transitioning and their loved ones that have to still live on this side of reality and manage the different things that are required. And I want to say this as we go into it. Some people may say, well, I don't have a super big estate or I don't have all this money. I think people will be surprised what they do have and how complicated it can be when someone doesn't have a guide as far as how to manage what is left. What would you say to that?
I think that's absolutely right. So people like to say in the industry this stat that only 1/3 of Americans have a trust or a will, right? And the reality, though, is that 100% of Americans actually have an estate plan, whether you've done something or not. And that means that if you die without a will, all of your belongings, everything that happens to you goes through a process called intestate, which is determined by the state that you live in. It is not difficult to put a basic will in place. It is not difficult to prepare yourself and to get your family the information that they need. And as your estate grows, as your life situation changes and evolves, yeah, you can accumulate more things that may complicate that process. But if you start, you're going to find out that you're in a better place than where you started. And you're going to get the help that you need, hopefully, if lots of resources out there that can make that easier. I think that the best quote that I've heard about it was leave your heirs the gift of organization. And that's really what you're doing. And on average, it takes 570 hours to administer an estate, and that's because you're sending your family on a scavenger hunt. Like if you came over to my house, Tina, and we are going to make dinner for people, and you walk in the door and we've got the ingredients. What are we cooking tonight? You and me. What do you want to make?
Steak and some salmon, uh,
Okay. I love it.
roasted potatoes and asparagus.
I'm coming over for dinner for real. Like that sounds great.
Let's be clear. My current husband does the cooking. I do the eating. That's why. I mean, no,
That's
I'm
okay.
not.
That's okay. So he's coming over to cook with me.
Yes.
So he comes in the door. We got the steak out. It's a nice ribeye. We've got the salmon, teriyaki glaze on it. We got potatoes. You get dessert. All the ingredients are there. We got the recipe. We got 3 hours before people come over. Like it is ready to go easy. That's going to be a fun night. But if I invite him over to make dinner, the door is locked. He needs to kick down the door. I'm not there. He knows people are coming over later. He doesn't know that the steaks I didn't buy. So he needs to go to the supermarket, but he has to talk to the manager for some reason to get the cut that we need. It's going to be a lot more complicated. And that's the problem that we're trying to solve is helping people get their information in order on their own with a professional, whatever fits their specific unique circumstance, because everybody's different. And then that entire process for everybody else is easier. And the reason why that is so important is that if something happens to you and you're incapacitated, first of all, you want to empower your loved ones or heirs to advocate for you in the way that you want to be advocated for. And then after something happens to you and you pass away, you also want to make their lives easier and not having to scramble. Well, does he want a funeral? Did he want to be cremated? Who should speak? What happens to his things? Are there things that I need to find? Is there a lockbox somewhere that I don't know about or a bank account? How do I get access to that? And there's so many different things that people just don't realize because you don't do this every day, that if you can just get a little bit of help from somebody that knows it, it makes things just so much easier for everybody.
Thank you. If someone said, well, I'm married, my spouse is just going to get everything already They know where everything is. I really don't think I need to go through all this. What would you say to them?
That could be true, but it might not be true. I had a gentleman in Virginia call me up. We had a conversation a few months ago, and he was married with 2 kids, and he got divorced, and he updated his will. So in the event something happened to him, both of his kids, we get 50% each. And that's all he did. He was like, I'm good to go, right? Do I need this kit? Somebody told me to call you. I want to learn about it. And I asked him if he updated his payable and death beneficiaries. And he went, no, my will. I updated that. We're good to go. But he didn't realize that payable on death beneficiaries on a bank account processed before your will does, because it's a contractual relationship. So his ex-wife was still going to get all the cash in the banks. And there's example after example after example of things like that. There's those known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns that you may think things are going to be really easy, but you might not realize that no, there are some things that are going to make it more complicated. Do you want things to be a little bit more private? Maybe you need a trust instead of a will, because wills need to be filed with the local jurisdiction and go through probate. Are there certain things that aren't worth a lot of money, but you really want somebody else to get it? Do you want someone to be able to advocate for you in the event that you can't advocate for yourself? Advanced directives, end of life care. What happens if both of you get in a car accident at the same time and something happens? Then what happens to all your stuff? Who gets it then? If you have a pet, what happens to your pet? How does it get fed? What about plants in your house? Who notifies your business partners if you work? You need to be able to set things up so if something were to happen to you, your family members, your loved ones can step in and handle your affairs on your behalf the way that you want, as seamlessly as possible. And saying, I'll do it later, just means that at the time when things are most stressful, you're going to be trying to do the things that are the least enjoyable for you to do. Like, if I had a choice of talking to my dad about memories and things that he wanted to continue and stories that we share together, so I had those memories of him, or asking him where the password is for his Gmail account and how to unlock his phone, what do you think I want to be doing? It's not the latter. So that's the long answer to a very good question.
Thank you. And often we make this statement as if something would happen. It seems even too hard to say the reality is when something will happen.
Yeah. I actually learned that the other day. Everybody dies. Who knew? It's amazing. Every single day in America, 10,000 people turn 65. By the end of the decade, there's going to be more people 65 and older than under, and twice as many 65-year-olds than there are today. The sandwich generation, 40 years and older, 15% of them are caring for themselves and their kids and or a parent right now, and that number is only going to increase. And the stat that really got me is that women that are married to men in this country, in the United States, on average, outlive their husbands by 5.8 years. And if you look at traditional family values, and I'm not saying that this is the way it is always, but oftentimes there's a division of labor in a family. If the male is doing the finances and the female is not, it's not to say she can't do it, but she's going to have to figure out how to pay the bills, where they get paid from, are there auto pays in a situation that she might not be familiar with. And I don't want that to happen to anybody, because that's hard to figure out when you're not stressed. And that's the type of thing that people don't think about. Oh, I got a will. The stuff is going to pass over to them. That's great. But do they actually know how to pay the bills? Do they actually know what's going to be paid? Do they know that property tax goes through your mortgage if you have one? Or do they know that if you miss your rent by 30 days, they're going to evict you or start those procedures? And that's what you need to figure out. And quite frankly, without somebody walking you through it or a checklist or 3, it can be pretty daunting to figure out on your own.
I would agree. And even in families where I was working full time when my husband passed. But you mentioned something about having someone's password to get into their phone. The level of complication involved in that, being able to validate the Google password and the different accounts that are linked, and how we are now dependent on technology, whether you're opening your loved one's computer, because a lot of people have their own. He and she, or she and she, your partner, you have your own computer and you're doing your own thing. How often do you actually log into your loved one's computer and start going through things?
Yeah. my dad had a mind where if I said, Dad, I need the bill for the roof that you put on the house when it got repaired 20 years ago, we go to the office, go to the file cabinet, left side, second drawer down, fourth file back. It's there. Very different from, Adam, I think it's in the office somewhere. Go look for it. Like, it's crazy. And the evolution of those paper-based files to digital, it used to be when somebody passed away, if you want to know what accounts they had, you just check the mail for a few months, because after they stop paying the bills, you'd get a letter that says, hey, you're delinquent. Now it goes to email. And if you don't understand what that means, it means that you have to understand how to access their phones, their computers, have the access to it, two-factor authentication for many things, password resets. You have to have the legal ability to actually do that, because you're not supposed to break into somebody's phone. And then there's a question of what happens to somebody's digital legacy. So you have photos on your phone. Do you want your family members to get those? Do you want them to just be deleted? You have Facebook's account or LinkedIn accounts. What happens to those? Do you want your other accounts just to be shut down? Your digital persona, your digital legacy now is just as important as your bank accounts, because they're all linked. It's just as important as the other stuff that you have. It's all linked now. And it's a lot more complicated than people think.
It is. I'd like to pivot into, so we've discussed the reality of how important it is to have this information. The first item I like to go over is the estate information binder.
Okay.
And you mentioned briefly how it has evolved. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
All right. So the version that you have is called the estate preparation package. And in that estate preparation package, you had a getting started folder. You had two binders. One was the estate information binder, and the other one was the health and legacy binder. Those were binders that are designed to capture all of the information that you need. The estate information binder, we can go into the details of it, but effectively, that's where you put your background, your family background, your assets, your liabilities, things that you don't want other people to know about, right? Those are the core of the estate. The other binder, the bright orange one, custom manufactured, faux leather, feels really nice. That is brightly colored, so you can take it with you to the hospital if you need to, or your doctor's offices. It has your medical records, medical history, key contact information of who needs to be called, worksheets that's several pages long for what you want to have happen at your end of life, summary sheets of your wills, of your trusts, of your ethical will, your legacy messaging, and things of that nature. So we put that out, and it was called the Estate Preparation Package, and we actually showed it to a company that manufactures more than a third of all of the caskets in America, right? Which is really neat. When you think about buying a car, you want to buy a Ford or a Porsche or something, you go to the dealership to buy that brand. But when you're thinking about buying a casket, you don't know those brands. You go to the funeral home normally, maybe you buy it in advance and you say, what are the options? They explain it to you and you buy it. So you don't care about who the manufacturer is. But there are some companies that are very, very deeply involved in the end-of-life industry. And when they saw what we did, they said that it was the most comprehensive end-of-life repository of information they've ever seen. So we took a lot of time to develop these, and it was actually one of the problems that we had, to be honest, is that there's so much information in the estate information binder that people went, oh, I don't even know where to start. So we actually just relaunched it. This happened a week and a half ago. So it's now no longer the estate preparation package, which also sounded a little bit like a service, and now they're called Clear Kits. So it's a comprehensive legacy and estate administration repository kit that has 3 binders now. We split the first binder into 2, so it's a little bit more manageable. So it now has a personal information, heritage, and pets. Then when you get to the technology side of things in the first binder, so technology, liabilities, tax, insurance, and that goes in your real estate assets, your financial assets, your physical assets, your business interests, things of that nature. That's binder 2. And then the third binder, which was the health and legacy binder, that's now called your final affairs, medical and legal. So I'm happy to talk about all of that. The 8.5 by 11 sheets, the USB drive that comes with it, the really high end, custom designed colored tabs to help people find the information that they need. But that's the evolution of what you have. And yeah, it's pretty neat.
Thank you. I really appreciate the level of care that was taken, not just to provide the information and guide, but to make it appealing. This is a difficult conversation to have. So aesthetically pleasing to the eye and touch adds value to that. This has come a long way from the spreadsheet that you made for your mom.
Yeah.
In the beginning, there's a welcome and the adult portfolio. You literally have the person's name on there, personalized to say that this is about you.
Yeah.
That it makes you feel like you come into the hotel and they have your name on the marquee and it goes, "Hi, welcome for your stay." That this is personalized, the care that's given to that. The beginning tablets, just general information. And it sort of just warms you up to some basic things that you need to cover. And the color now, this is changed, I know, but the tabs go from red to orange to yellow. What are the sections that that represents?
All right. This is fun. My mom helped with that, which is really funny. So we had multiple different sets of tabs in different colors that I liked and a few other people liked, because again, this is not just me that was designing this package. And my mom comes in and goes, "The tab colors are all out of order." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Adam, people like rainbows." So we align them in colors to go through, and each section has its own specific color. Um, and it turns out that just by eye, she was able, like literally with a spectrum, there are only two colors that were reversed. So it goes through on a color coded basis in each of the binders to make it so the information is color coded within the section that they're in.
Okay.
The white labels are always the header tabs. So
Okay.
start here, adult profile. So the start here, adult profile, the general information is about them, the family information about them. When the next section is the child profiles, the grandchild profiles, and the non-minor dependents. There's a pet profile section, which is really neat. We actually worked with a veterinarian on
I
that section.
wanted to pause right there to talk
Yeah.
about the pets because that is a big concern for people. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously your children are, but we're in a world where some people, everyone does not have children.
Mhm.
Their pets are their children.
Yeah.
People often bequest a lot to their pets and the care of them and things of that nature. So the and I must say the pet section, the idea of that, what keyed you into that? Are you a pet person or just working with people and realizing their need?
A little bit of both, or a lot of both. We have a dog. His name is Zeke. He's our director of marketing. Gotta have fun with it. He's a little cavapoo. We have a cat as well. But the reality is that a lot of what we've done is based on interviews and experience that has evolved over time. So an unknown fact is that one of the most frequent updates for people's estate plans once you hit 55 and older, if you already have everything in place, is making provisions for pets, because you've already taken care of your kids. That's not going to change very much. You have to update when you move, major life events, things of that nature. But pets really are part of the family. And if something were to happen to you, you want people to not only know who gets the pet, but what does it eat? When does it eat? Where are the vet records? What happens to it? Like literally, the pet profile is just as long, if not longer, than the profile of your kids.
I was
And
gonna say that, but I was trying not to because I was like, "Okay."
no, you can.
Yes, the pet profile is pretty thick here.
Yeah, you don't have to fill everything out though. So it's fill out what you can, and everything you put in it, it's designed to help the person that needs to utilize it and leverage it. But we want to make sure that we provide the information in case somebody needs it. So the pet profile was developed with a local veterinarian, just like when we went through the assets, the liabilities, or with certified financial planners, with financial advisors. It takes a village to build this thing, and there's a reason why it took us a while to get it out, why we went through many revisions, and the physical design of it as well. It doesn't look like somebody made it on Word. Like, this is a professional designer that we used, multiple, to make sure that everything was okay with copywriting, copy editing, that the columns and the spaces actually have enough area and space for you to write the responses in. It's a labor of love.
Absolutely is. Would you mind if I go over a little bit what's on the pet profile?
Yeah, totally. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So it talks about general information, the type of animal, the breed. Somebody that's not the owner of your pet, they just know it's a dog. But if you don't really go into those details, they would not know. The acquisition information, that's really important for someone who is now about to take on loving your pet and all they know is the dog's name is Barky and nothing else. This really lays it out to talk about the primary care provider of your pet. How many people know their other friends the veterinarian. I mean, my husband has a service dog. We went there today. I could not tell you the name of the veterinarian. We were right outside there. I don't know that information. The and then there's different types of veterinarians to be able to know what is the one you take them for this or for that. The preference behavior of your pet, to be able to lay that out, daily care and routine, and pet insurance, the details of that. This
Mhm.
is more than just you think somebody knows everything and not giving them. And then you have that because oftentimes people may have more than one pet. So to be able to lay that out, just to consider the details that are being provided. And when you hear that, you go, well, yeah, I should share that information. It would make that easier because your pet is going to be distressed when you're no longer here. So the easier someone can lean in and keep your pet's routine consistent is going to make it easier for them too.
Mhm. Yeah, and you don't have to fill it out if you don't have it or if you don't have all the information for it, but we wanna make it so in the event that you do have it, that it makes it easier for those coming after you for temper or not, and, like, there's these unintended consequences that people might think about, so to give you a little bit of a glimpse, the reason why we wanna know where the pet acquisition was, did you adopt it versus not? There's some people that if you buy a purebred dog, you're not actually allowed to donate that dog to a kennel or turn it over, you have to give it back to that individual. So if it's not going to a home. So there's a lot of things that we didn't even realize had to be included or should be included. Like where are the pet's favorite toys? And it's not just the pet section. I like talking about the pet section because people love pets,
And
right?
that's why I landed there too.
Yeah. But like we have it literally this level of detail for every single section for housing, for internet access, security, you name it. And the reason why is you can't get through all of your information in 20 pages because this is your life. And that, I mean, maybe that's what the name of the package should have been, the life binder, the life book. But
No, I mean, in the next section, curious, how many email addresses do you have?
me personally,
Yes.
I've got my personal address. I've got the buried and work address. I have Fosterly, which is the company that Buried and Work is technically under. We have consulting contracts and things through that. So primarily three, but like there's some legacy ones that are like Old Wash U where I went to college. And
Yes.
yeah,
And
there's a lot.
right, when I looked at this, I have one for work, I have one for widowhood, I have a Gmail account for bills, one for personal, and different things like that. The idea of just literally laying out this section here with the passwords, the email addresses, this is not something that you can really put together. You kinda start this, you put it down, you come back to it,
Yeah.
you think about it. What is the recommendation or timeline for a person to I received the binder today, and what is the best way to start leaning into completing everything?
Every clear kit now comes with a blue booklet that says getting started. And in the front of the one that you got, I believe that there's in the start here section there. Yep. That's the annual review checklist. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Um,
That's what you do after you started figuring things out. April 16th, day after you pay taxes, hopefully, you go through and you go, what's happened in my life that I need to update in this binder?
okay.
So you should have one getting started as well. If not, then it was added afterwards.
I think it was added afterward.
All right. So open up your start here page, and there's going to be a list of a few sections that you should fill out first.
This one?
So that no, let me see if I can get one actually. I should have it.
You know, so I have oh, you know what? Hold on. My apologies.
There we go. Getting started. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this, it will tell you the specific sections in both binders that we think are the most important ones for you to fill out.
Okay.
And start there, work your way through, and then every once in a while you come back to the binder, and it's great if you do it with a friend and you keep yourself, on target. But this will take some time to fill out. This is not a quick thing, but many of the sections themselves are quick. You can do your entire general information section without the family narrative because people can get really detailed there in probably under half an hour. And once that's in there, your social security number is not changing, your name's not changing, right? your past residential history, which is really cool to find your unclaimed property. And we've got a list on our site of all the databases that you can search to find unclaimed property based on where you lived. So that's one thing that's really neat about this is the kits aren't standalone. They actually link back to the repositories of information on the website. We got 1,800 articles, 100 plus checklists and guides. We've got 20 directories that are relaunching right now from service providers and others, quizzes, games, like a whole host of stuff. This all ties back in now with QR codes and different things. But focus on the key sections in the getting started packet and then go back and fill in more information as it becomes needed for you.
So is this something an individual can fill out on their own, or do they have to get with their lawyer, their medical provider, financial advisor, or how would this work?
I love that question. Everything in here you should be able to fill out on your own. Several sections can benefit from letting those individuals know that you have it. And here's why. One is that you can say, here's my medical section. I want you to fill this out for me, and they'll do it for you. Like that's their job, right? So it makes it easier, saves time. Two is it actually empowers them to give you a better level of service. Now, if you don't have an attorney that's helped you with your will, that's completely okay because you can do it yourself. On the website, there's a list of all the requirements for every 50 states on what makes it so a will is legally binding in your state because it changes state to state. But if you go to an attorney that charges $150 an hour or $400 an hour and say, here's all my information, they're going to be able to make your will and service you better, faster, saving you money, effectively pays for the estate preparation package or the clear kit now, because they have the information that they need on the one hand. And on the other hand, if your financial planner knows what your lawyer did and knows what your doctor did, they're all going to be able to work in your ecosystem that is your life and give you a better result more effectively. It's really hard to do financial planning if you don't know where the assets are or what the will is, because the lawyer may say, oh, not only do you have a will, but you have a trust. What needs to put into the trust? And they should talk to your financial planner and figure that out. It takes a village. So if you're just getting started in your estate planning roadmap, all this you can do yourself. And if you evolve over time and you're really lucky and you have one house and two houses and three houses and four kids and two past marriages and 7 grandkids and things start getting even more complicated in the decision tree, that's when you want to start involving more and more people to look this stuff over.
I thank you. Once I've completed this, where do I put it in the house? What do I do with this?
Don't put it in the bank. That's the one thing, because you need your family members to know where it is. You also don't want it in your kitchen because you don't need to be looking at this stuff every single day. Keep it in a place that's not going to be wet. Obviously, like some people want to put it in their basement or something. Don't put it there because you want it to be really easy accessible. Oftentimes somebody's closet in their office is a really good place for it. But the thing is not as important of where you put it, but who knows where the information is. So it goes back to that example that we talked about when your husband's coming over to make steak with me. If he came over and he didn't know where the steak was, he can't make the steak. Doesn't make sense. If something happens to you and they need to know what your medical preferences are because you're in the hospital, they can't go on a scavenger hunt in your house looking for this stuff. So you just have to make sure that your loved ones, so if you're married, your spouse, maybe your 2 kids that are going to get involved, let your attorney know that it exists. So in the event that something happens, they can get access to it really quickly. So that's important. Secure and knowledge about where it is.
Thank you. The idea of putting it in a safe?
Don't do it. Don't do it. So the estate information binder that you have, that can go in a safe. That makes sense. That can go there. Your health binder, you want it accessible for people to understand where it is. The reason why I say safe, I don't necessarily mean the safe in your house. I mean a safety deposit box in a bank. So what oftentimes happens is people be like, oh, I've got all this stuff. I put my will in the bank. Go and get it. Well, the bank's not necessarily going to let your next of kin go into the bank account until they have letters of administration, which comes after you pass away because you don't have power of attorney. So they're not going to actually see any of this stuff for 3 weeks to 4 months, right? That's not helpful. You have to make sure that the people that need the information have access to the information when they actually need it.
Thank you for explaining that. In going through the additional tabs that are here, listing, and you mentioned before that oftentimes we won't know what accounts people have because we don't have hard mail coming like we used to. So to be able to lay out the amount of properties that you have, the addresses, the accompanying mortgages, I thought it was very interesting, the reoccurring deposits. There are so many things. not just one's paycheck. People may have a VA disability, they may have an annuity payment, and just go on and on and on. And how to contact that is not a check coming in the mail, but it is these automatic deposits that are going on and how you navigate that.
I love that you actually took time to go through all of this. I mean, a lot of people, I've done a few of these podcasts and they'll go, "This is great. I really like your games. This is great." And you can tell they've done a skim over. Like, you have really gone into this and I'm impressed. Like, thank you. Like,
Oh, you are welcome.
you're picking up on all the things that we really want people to notice that are important to learn as you go through it, because there's stuff that you might not think about. Like in the next section after the recurring deposits, there's the important payment section where it says, is this an important one that we have to care about? Like, I don't care if Netflix doesn't get paid, but the house needs to be.
Right. The credit cards, the list of those. And I did take a lot of time in doing this, and the reason being, my listeners are people that have lost a loved one. They may be the surviving parent needing to make sure things are in order for their children. Maybe there is a child listening and thinking about, my mom really needs to have things in order. Or these are people that have been, I'll say, touched by the reality that our mortality has a limitation.
Mhm.
And having something like this, if they're going to invest their money to purchase this, I want to give them a sense of what they would be investing in for their well-being and their loved ones. So just to go, oh, here's a book and a couple of tabs, that's not going to be enough for me to want to lean in and go to your website and look at what it is you have to offer and what that is. So before we go into the health finder, can you navigate us through your website and show us a little information there, please?
Yeah. Do you want me to do a screen share? Will that
Yes,
even show up?
please.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me go there. All right. So when you come to the website, the tagline is organize your estate before it's too late. That rotates different things, but effectively what we're trying to show people is that we're here to help. And the content that we have is getting picked up by periodicals and websites and news and podcasts around the country, which is awesome. The quality of what we're doing, this is why the image on the front page is the way it is. Like, this is custom stitching, custom manufactured. This is not something that you literally just buy off the shelf. Like you said earlier, it has my name on it. This is personal. It's personal for us, it's personal for you, and we want to recognize that. As you go down the main page, you create your clear kit. There's multiple different types you can get now for one person, for two people. We've got an estate preparation roadmap that this is free. You can walk through it. It says, first, here's a free estate summary worksheet. So it's 3 pages long. It is the most simple version of the clear kit possible. It says, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Who's your attorney? Where are your bank accounts? Where are your assets, liabilities? It's free. If you do nothing at all other than come to the website, please just go to the roadmap and download that free estate summary worksheet. It's the least you can do for your loved ones. If you need help creating a will, we've got relationships now that literally we will say, here's a quiz for you. You can create your will. There's 3 ways. You can do it on your own. You can do it online, or you can do it with an attorney, and we'll help you figure out what's best for you. Same thing with creative advance directives. We're partnering with a really neat company right now. Video-based directives that gives you ID cards that go in your wallet in case something happened to you. So doctors really understand what your wishes are. Company's called Mideo. You can come here and find out. We have our own podcast. People came to us and said, you've been on our podcast. What other podcasts do you think that we should listen to? And you know what? A lot of people are reaching out to us. We're reaching out to other people. Let's just share the free research that we did. So now there's 100, 125 podcasts in 6 or 7 different categories, from aging, elder care, hospice care, palliative care, legal, like a whole host of different things. Estate planning, end of life. We have a section for funeral and end of life traditions. So if you are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, non-secular, LGBTQ+, we have long guides and helpful information and articles to help you plan funerals. Like, I'm Jewish, what prayer should be said here? So that's a whole section there. We've got our card games that we talked about. So now it's one more story, nothing left unsaid, and then death during dinner, which is the worksheet to help you host your own dinner, which is cool. We've got a bunch of checklists. The one that is used the most on the website is the get the end of life checklist, or the what to do after somebody passes away. It's 56 steps to take after somebody passes away that you probably don't know. It grows. So 56 today, it could be 72 tomorrow. Won't be 72 tomorrow, but it could be. So there's a whole host of checklists. If you have trouble starting the conversation with your parents, we've got resources for that too. There's actually a service that we will get on a Zoom with your mom or your dad or your family. We will walk you through our end of life checklist worksheet, and we will walk you through the estate summary worksheet. We won't fill out all the information because we don't know what your assets and liabilities are, but we'll explain what's important. And by the time they walk away, they're going to understand that you actually care about having this conversation. Or it gives you a quiz where you can figure out for you or somebody else's estate how prepared you are if something were to happen to them on a scale of 1 to 10, and then prompts based on those that you can then cut and paste and text your parents. Hey, mom, dad, I took this quiz and worried about the results. Let's go talk. So a lot of things there. We have directories that we mentioned, from grief coaches and counselors to home healthcare agencies, funeral cremation and final resting place locations, hospice palliative care, estate planning attorneys. So those are coming online right now. We just relaunched those this week, actually, and there's over 20,000 listings already that are in there. People are coming in to claim and put in extra information. We've got directories to find unclaimed property in every single state and federal database. So if you have a gym membership, let's say, and you don't pay your bills for a while, or you paid, but then you cancel your membership and they can't give you the refund, they can't just keep that money. They have to turn it over to the state. And you would be surprised how much money states are holding in people's names. And this is a free way for you to search to find that cash. We helped somebody find $30,000 a few weeks ago. It's kind of neat. Closing online accounts. Someone called us up and said, I'm in the hospital. My mom fell and hit her head. I'm in the emergency room waiting, and the people next to me, I'm just overhearing their conversation because I can't help it. And I want to help them. And they're saying that they're having trouble getting in touch with Amazon because they need to get access to somebody's account for some reason. So we reached out to close to 100 companies in the country, and we have their customer service information and what to do in the event something happens to transition people's accounts. We have an initiative called Ask 3 Questions. These are the 3 questions you need to ask of every single account that you have, both financial, insurance, and whatnot. That helps you figure out who gets the benefits of the accounts, who can talk to them in the event something happens to you, and what happens to the account itself. I can keep going and going and going. There's a lot of stuff on the website, but that's just scrolling down checklist directories, plan giving campaigns we're helping out with now, state-specific resources. We got a ton of templates now that people can download too. So that's that before we hop into this orange binder that's on the screen right here.
Yes, thank you. I want to say something about the, we can stop screen sharing now.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much. The unclaimed property, sometimes people feel like that's not legitimate, or it's sort of just a folklore. I can say from my own personal experience and friends who have had parents that have passed, to go in there, and I'm glad that you have all 50 states, because it's not just looking up someone's name, it's any place where they resided over their life, where they may have had accounts established. And I actually found, with my late husband, from being in the military, remembering all the different states, and there was a telephone bill that had been closed out in some place we lived, and I'm not sure if it was the deposit or whatever it was, but there was money left, and I was able to find, I wanna say, at least 6 different checks in different areas, and it's something that, it's not like something you do at once. You kinda wanna go back maybe 3 or 4 years because the processing time, but I'll let you get into that. Go ahead.
All right, so in the first binder, did you notice there was a tab that said past residential history?
Mhm.
That is specifically why it's so people can go back and find this information. I love stats. And there's an association, because I live in DC, there's an association for everything. There's actually an association for directors of associations. It's kind of meta. There's one that's the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators, NAUPA. And they say that 1 in 7 Americans have unclaimed property, which means that there's 33 million people in America that haven't claimed something that the governments are holding on to. And the average of claims that are out there per person that has it is $2,080 each. It is 100% legitimate. You search on your address, you search on your name in the state that you're in, and then you normally have to fill out a form. and they ask for your ID, some information of why you think it's yours, and then literally they just send you a check. The government doesn't want that money. They're literally just holding it. It's your money. Take it back.
I did have to provide my late husband's death certificate because some of the items were in his name and to be able to show that. I do want to circle back to one item that we've mentioned a lot, will and trust. Oftentimes, those people hear those terms and they seem to be the same and don't quite know the difference of those. Could you elaborate on those, please?
Okay. If you want to come to the website and really get into it on our guide section, we have an entire guide that is the difference of wills and trusts. A will, which is also known as a last will and testament, is a legal document that communicates your final wishes regarding the distribution of your assets, but also can include instructions for guardianship of minors, care of pets, and other personal directives, things of that nature. If you don't have a will, that means that the government is going to dictate that order of operations of how your estate gets divvied up, and that's the intestate process that we talked about earlier. A trust is effectively, and I'm going to simplify things for listeners. A trust is effectively a legal arrangement that says that somebody is going to hold on to your assets and manage it for you within that trust. And there are dozens of different types of trusts with different reasons of why you want to look at them. High level, and a lot of people say, oh, you use tax trusts and trust for tax avoidance and different things. The main issue between a trust and a will for most people is privacy, is what it comes down to. You can go online and find wills of some very famous people and understand what they did with their stuff, because wills have to be filed with the state. Trusts don't have to be. Trusts are private because you're taking the ownership out of you and putting it into this other entity. So your will say his stuff is this, yada, 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 let's say. But the trust is just the trust is this. So if you want all of your hidden wishes, hidden items, that's where you go for a trust. I don't want to get into like the details of each one. There's ladybird trusts and there's pour over provisions in wills. So in the event that you pass away, all of your provisions or all of your items automatically go into a trust. Trust can be revocable, irrevocable. There's different reasons for that. Trust can help protect your assets for a certain period of time. So in the event that you do have to go into an assisted living facility later, that they can't claw back some of your assets. Like there's a bunch of stuff, but that's the really difficult and confusing way. Will, you can do on your own if you need to. Trust, do not do it on your own. Get an attorney to help you out.
Thank you very much. When we're already talking about a conversation that is difficult,
Mhm.
now we're incapacitated and our loved ones need to speak on our behalf. The information that is in this health and legacy is extremely important because even though we're cohabitating with people, I don't know if people talk about their health to this level of detail to make it manageable for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the truth of it. Like sometimes people don't have those conversations. It can be really, really difficult. And there's two sides of that coin. The one side is the legal side of what people have to do or should be doing. And then there's the other side of, I want this to happen, right? You can have legally binding advance directives, and advance directives mean different things in different states that say, this is what I want to have happen in regard to my care. Or you can leave a legacy message that says, hey, I really want this to happen. Here's what I want people to think about as they're making those decisions for me, right? And that's why I said earlier, you're unique just like everybody else. You get to figure out what your situation is, how you want to proceed, and where you are in life. Maybe when you're 20 years old, you don't believe in cremation, but later on in life, you go, you know what? I actually am okay with that because I don't want to take up the land for some reason. Or now I want a green burial, or I want to be turned into a coral reef or shot into space or turned into a tree.
My daughter and I just talked about that. Her and I both
Yeah.
want to be the tree plant and not of that. Her dad was cremated. And the idea of doing that, laying out your health profile, a lot of times I think people think, what's the medication I'm taking and who are my doctors? If you know that, you know enough.
No, Nah. So just knowing who the doctors are is a very good step, but you want to have a situation where the doctors that are treating you have access to the information when they need it. So think of it in two steps. Comprehensive estate planning is that entire journey throughout your life, from before you're sick, if you get sick, to when you're getting care, to passing away after, and the transition of your assets, right? If you get hit by that proverbial bus, it doesn't matter in the near term who your rheumatologist is, right? It doesn't matter who your treating doctor is for your cancer or some other ailment that you have. It is important that the people that are treating you, trying to keep you alive and triage that situation, have the information that they need right then. What is your blood type? Do you have allergies? Who needs to be contacted? Should you be intubated? Should you not be? And by having this information, the critical information in one place, that's important. And then as things progress throughout life, throughout your care, you can leverage the other bits of resources. So what we've done is we've designed the health and legacy binder that you have. So no matter where you are in your journey, if you are gradually progressing into an instance where you need care in a home, they have all the information that they need to service you better and to make your stay as nice as it is. In the event that you get hit by that bus and you rush to the hospital, or your child rushes to the hospital, and the doctors say, "What do we need to know?" They go, "Everything you need to know is right here," right? And then if you go through the full process and you even get the advanced directives that we encourage, the recommended vendor, you'll actually have the card in your wallet that kicks off everything even faster than that. So just like we have 3 different sections on the website, how do we create a will, do it yourself, online services with a lawyer? We've created it so no matter what your circumstance is, if you are progressing, if there's an immediate thing or something else, it covers all of those different avenues. And just saying, "Oh, I've got my doctor written down and they can find it at the house," it's just not sufficient.
It is not. You have 3 different sections in this particular binder, the red, the white, and the orange. Can you describe what's covered in those different sections?
Okay. So
Quiz time.
yeah, they're broken up to make sure that you have the information about, and I don't have it in front of me. I should have it in front of me. You've got your key contacts log in the red.
Mhm.
The red section is your key contacts and your medical information. So this is the stuff that helps you prep for that. Then the white sections in there, those are the key tabs of the sections that you're in, so the explanation tabs. And then the orange sections in the back, that's about your legacy, which are your legal documents.
Okay.
So it is a step process of red is most important for critical responders. Orange is your before I forget messages, your legacy messaging, your other and revoke directives, because a lot of people don't realize that if you revoke directives from somebody, you should actually tell people. So if they come in and say, "I'm the proper person that can make this decision," the person who is the actual proper can go, "No, we can rebut it." That's the legal side of things. Medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, I'm going backwards. Trusts, your digital legacy, your ethical will, your last will and testament, your organ, tissue, and body donation. Caveat: organ, tissue, body donation. If you want to donate your body to science, 1, you have to set that up long in advance. It won't be like the day of, "I want to donate it." And 2, make sure you're stipulating very clearly what you want to have happen to you. Somebody actually donated their mom's body to science, medical research, and it turns out that that body was sold to the military to blow up because it was science to see what happens in testing. So just be very careful about that. Your end of life directives, and then what I think is probably the most important one, other than the will and trust information so they can find it, is your final resting place instructions worksheet, which really walks your loved ones in and will save them so much time and energy and help you think about what you actually want to have happen to you. So that's
Thank you.
that. There's a lot of information in here. It's
It
overwhelming.
is. I'm not sure if this little packet here and
Yeah.
what's it, can you talk about those?
Okay. One is a key kit.
Mhm.
So I walked in my dad's office and there's a box on his desk. Now, on my desk, there's keys in it.
Aw,
Um, there aren't keys in it on my desk. There are keys in it on his desk. And the keys, right? The keys, you have no idea what they go to. So we
right.
created a kit that helps you identify what the keys are in your house really easy in one place for spare copies. So if something were to happen to you, you can put multiple keys in it, and then you pull out the card and you go, key 1 is the front door. Here's the key that you need for this. And then the other one is a fridge magnet, an ice magnet in case of emergency that gives you critical information that in the event something were to happen to you, you slip and fall, they can come and find you at the fridge and make sure that the people that need to know what they need to know have the information that they need. Like, we're just trying to create this ecosystem that really helps people out.
It is. And my husband was an electrician, and he had so many keys. There were so many keys around the house. We had multiple properties, trying to understand which key belonged to which address. When you are in the fog of grief, you cannot comprehend your diminished mental capacity
Yep.
and the state in which you will operate in. If you're not there or have never experienced, you think, well, I'm just going to think and go through stuff and get things in order. No, that is not where you're at to be able to do that. This last binder that we have here, can you talk a little bit about this one?
That is our critical document storage notebook. People think that it's just a plastic. It's actually fiberglass that's coated in silicone that is fire and water resistant.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, we need to do better branding it then. Our goal is that, and if you open it up, there's an expansion folder area in it.
Yes.
There's a place to store cards, credit cards. What we thought is for people with basic estate information or most critical documents can go in this, and it can travel with you as well. And in the event that your house burns down, this will melt and burn down too, but it'll give you a few extra minutes so you can grab it if it's on the way out. But it's really important that people have all their stuff organized. And we think that by keeping these in your kit, the 2 binders and the black book together is important. In the new clear kit, the 3 binders and the black one. And soon we're actually going to have a bigger box as well if you have even more information that you want to store. We keep getting feedback of iterating and iterating and iterating, and it's neat. But the product is, the clear kit content is done now, and now we're just making tiny tweaks to make it so it integrates better with our website and is even more engaging for people to use.
And so when he talks about a box, right? I went through it, but this is the box that it comes in.
Yeah.
So to see size, and there's a handle right here, and you just open it up, and everything's included in there.
And the message there too, right?
Say
so
again?
The message that when people open up the box.
Yes.
Yeah. So congratulations on taking the next step to an organized estate. So if something were to happen to you and somebody opens it up, they understand what's in the actual box. And we've oversized the box as well. So when you open it up, you notice that there was the shipping material on top, so things didn't bounce around. That wasn't just for shipping. It's because if you've got extra documents that you want to keep together, the box is going to store it too.
Yeah.
So we paid more money for air to make it easier on people to actually store more stuff. These are the types of things that we're trying to think about. There's a handle on it, so you can carry it like a briefcase.
Right.
Like when you talk about like learning from other people, when we first worked with a designer, we had the Buried in Work logo on the front of it, and the person said, you need to switch your logo around. We're like, what are you talking about? Because when I'm opening up the box, it makes sense to face me. He goes, no. When you hold it like a suitcase, you want people to read the logo.
Right.
And that I think is one of the best examples, simple examples of how important it is for us to be collaborating with experts around the country in their specific jurisdiction. It's not just me. It's not just a few other people that are putting this stuff together. The number of people that have weighed in onto what we're doing to make the entire ecosystem of products and resources that we're creating better for everybody has just made this literally what we believe to be the most comprehensive resource that is only going to get better.
I can definitely agree. It is a well-developed product. When you thought about us having this conversation, were there some things that you wanted to cover that we maybe did not dive into?
I think we've actually gone through 99% of what I think is important. And one thing that's surprising for me, if you've got people that are listening that work in HR or for companies that people can make decisions in, we thought we were building this originally to help people individually, but companies have been coming to us really surprisingly, which is great. And our content and our products are being offered as HR benefits now. We're working with religious organizations. There are boutiques and holiday sales that we're being asked to go to and conferences. People are using these as fundraisers. Hey, we'll actually give a referral fee or an affiliate fee back. So it works out for more people to get more prepared, because effectively for every one of these that gets sold, it means that somebody's life is going to be a little bit better. And if we can even work with organizations to help them, get these out to their members, that's great too. So if you have ideas for us, just get in touch with us. It's really easy to find us on the website. My email address also, adam@buriedinwork. Really difficult to find. I'd love to chat. Thank you.
Thank you. And you also mentioned that there was a special discount code for anyone that listened to this recording and reached out to you. Did you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm happy to set that up. We'll do Real Talk
Okay.
for the code, and I'll get you 10% off of the clear kit. Not the bundles, because those are already discounted, but the clear kit itself will give everybody 10% off.
Okay, thank you. I have asked you a ton of questions, Adam. Thank you so much for sharing this product with my listeners. Do you have any questions of me?
Yes. I have one question for you. You've interviewed a lot of people. You've seen how the ebbs and flows of this journey can go. You've asked a lot of really insightful questions. What's one question that you wish people asked you?
Wow, that's a really good question. No one has asked me that. I've never thought about what I wanted someone to ask me, but I would want them to ask a question that they could leverage the information to help someone else. Because I want to say it's about a 9-year average before we have a death of a loved one that is very close to us. We may have someone, and everyone's life is important, but my relationship with my mail carrier is not the same as the relationship I have with my husband. The relationship I have with my children may not be the same with a next door neighbor. So the proximity of the loved one dying is not something we experience on a regular basis. And if you're able to connect with someone that has experienced the death of a loved one that had a close relationship, take that information to leverage it to support other people that may be in your ecosystem that may need your support, because we often say things that are status quo that do not have value to the person that is suffering, and being able to hold that safe space for them and understand, don't show up with your logic, meet them with your emotions, and know it is difficult. And just sit there, and you don't have to have an answer. This is not fixable. And when you commit to do something for someone, show up and do it, because they need you.
I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll allow you to close out this conversation. Thanks for that question.
Yeah. Guess the last thing I'll say is come to the website, buriedinwork.com. If there's free resources that you can leverage, that's fantastic. If you need something we don't have, please let us know. You can buy the clear kit for you, for a loved one. That's phenomenal. That lets us fund a lot of the development of more resources. Tina, we really appreciate you having us on today. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.